I'm rocking my
Recording
my brand new.
Talk shoes. Recorded live.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you are listening to the VMware Communities Roundtable Podcast. This is podcast number 516. My name is Eric Nielsen, and with me today I have my co-host, Matt Lungeth. Today is Wednesday, June 24th. This is the VMware Community Podcast, and hit subscribe and go to youtube.com/vbarbecue if you want to see what we look like. Matt Lungeth, how you doing today?
Eric, I am well. It is another continuing saga and the interesting chapter and book that has been 2020. But back here in VMworld land and all things community, we had VMworld registration open yesterday on the 23rd. And we also had those that had submitted potential sessions for VMworld announcements come back and a lot of positive receptions there. So continuing to march along, I'm healthy, I am well. How are you, sir? How is the weather and how is things out in the Bay? And what's the color of the Bay today?
Well, actually, it's beautiful sunny here in California. It's been in the 80s, and it hasn't been too windy. So the color of the Bay is just dark, clear blue, right? So it's one of the nice days of summer. And life has been busy. You're right. We did announce VMworld, and on the show today, we're also going to be talking about vExpert Pro. So topic for today, vExpert Pro. We have several vExpert Pros. I think we have 4 vExpert Pros on the Roundtable podcast today between Christopher Kuzak, Tolga Tumchu, I guess we'll say. We'll introduce Tolga. He can tell us the correct pronunciation of him. We also have Corey Romero as well as yourself, Matt, to talk about the vExpert Pro program today. And the vExpert Pro program, I think the nominations or applications are wrapping up towards the end of this week. So that should still give people a little bit more time, but we just kind of want to talk about the status. A lot of excitement going on with the vExpert Pros, with vExpert open registration for the back half of the year for regular vExperts, as well as VMworld. Yeah, registration is open. I registered. Did you register?
Oh, most certainly.
Yes.
I saw a lot of tweets that were out there for people that did register, people that jumped on right at those sessions. I think we've seen an interesting mix of just obviously it's free this year for general attendance, and then there is that premium tier for those that would choose to do so. But so many great things, even just at the free tier, that are out there for the community that in years past we haven't seen. So I think it's going to be, with this virtual event, while, not in person in that community aspect, we might be a little bit more inclusive and seeing some of those people that may not be able to attend events in years past to now get to see all of that is the platform and all that's out there to offer. So I can't wait, see what this means and the effort that's going forth into the platform and getting out there. Really hyped about it.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. Go to vmworld.com and register today. It is free. I registered yesterday. Didn't have to wait for anybody to send me an invite or anything like that because it's free. So I've already signed up and started to receive the mail flow that you get from vmworld.com when you sign up. So that's also going to be fun. Corey Romero, vExpert applications open until I think this Thursday. Is that correct?
Yeah, they close tomorrow night. So if you're on the fence, you better get on it. I've seen, I think about 15 to 20 applications come in just from this morning so far. And I'm pretty impressed. I'm actually really impressed this year on how many applications that we have. We've got almost 550 applications just for the second half, which is impressive. Wow. I appreciate everything that the vExpert Pros have done and the vExperts. This year, they're a little bit different. I went out and reached out to the pros and the vExperts and said, hey, write a blog post and some tweets on the value prop, right? Like what, not just, hey, I get free licenses. Hey, I get free shirt from a partner, right? What has it actually done for you personally? What are your friendships like, right? What has it done for you professionally, right? What's your job like? What's changed? And so we went out and marketed all these blog posts and push this stuff out. And by doing that, I think we're really boosting, and people are seeing like, hey, there's a lot of value in this. And if I'm contributing to the community like these guys are, I should probably go and apply. So we're seeing a lot of that. And so I appreciate everything the pros are amazing. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate you. And we've got vExpert Pro application training happening Friday morning. So we're going to go through that since we have some new vExpert Pros this year.
Nice. All right. Well, we'll get to the vExpert Pro. I'll do a little overview when we get to our guests here. But before we get to guests, one last thing, which is a little bit of VM world. There's some community news there. One, we did get allocated 20 birds of a feather sessions across the 2-day event. And it's actually kind of a 3-day. It's a 3-event event. We're going to be running the VMworld in Europe time zone. We're going to be running VMworld in US time zone, and we're going to be running VMworld in Europe time zone, which means that if we do birds of a feather sessions for community with vBrownBag, which I haven't gotten to Alistair yet to talk him through what we actually landed on, which is 20 half-hour sessions over, that's 8 hours a day, that's 16. You get 16 in 2 days, and we actually get 4 extra slots. So, but then we have to rerun those. So we run the 20 in Europe time, we have to run the 20 in US time, and we have to run the 20 in APJ time. And at the same time, we need some members of the community to actually be part of the virtual BOF, right? We have to have people answering questions, dealing with traffic on the chat windows. We're going to actually have, the live stream video feed, right, of the person. And there's a couple positions that they've told us I need to recruit 4 people per session. And if we're running those in 3 different time zones, right, that means that I'm going to have like 100 people by the time I'm done. Although some of us can do obviously all day, all night. We'll just Red Bull it, right, and run those. But that's actually exciting because I was wondering how are we going to do these vExpert, and community-oriented birds of a feathers, and we're actually driving that concept of birds of a feather, which is you get in a room, there's going to be a limited number of Zoom seats, like maybe possibly 30, where you can come in, and we're going to have a format where for the first 5 or 7 minutes, you're going to get to say hello to people and chat, right? So it's like 10 minutes of open, hey, how's it going? What's new? Chat with everybody. Then dive into the subject and get the, which is really only a 10-minute topic, and then more chat, right, about the topic, so that it really feels like you're coming to a place to hang out. And that's what birds of a feathers are supposed to be. It's like-minded people that want to come together and talk, and maybe we'll have some pizza stuff, or wear your favorite garb. We would like to have video enabled. Not sure if we're going to get video enabled yet. Certainly for the speakers, I know chat's enabled. They came back and said, you want 30 live camera feeds? And I'm like, yeah, that's the idea, is you can say hello to people and engage with them. So we're working on that, but we have been given those slots allocated to ourselves in vBrownBag. We'll probably just do most of them from vBrownBag. So if you have a topic that you think would be fun to talk to the community about, right, that would lend itself well to kind of like more conversational, it's not just a presentation, think about it. I'm going to be talking to Alistair. We'll put up a call for topics and get those in. We have a relatively short period of time to make that happen. So that's exciting. We finally have the format. We have allocation for communities, and we're going to be doing that. We're also going to be doing a hackathon the following day after the show, so that we'll have more time to do it. So that looks like it's coming together. And yeah, that's moving forward. We finally gotten the okay this week to start, so we will start working with everybody to get some online engagements defined and up in Schedule Builder, and they will be in Schedule Builder, and that's what I know so far. So that's what's happening with VMworld. Now let's get back to the vExpert Pro topic at hand. Again, we have our guests here. We should, everybody knows, of course, Corey Romero, no introduction there. Matt, you're a vExpert Pro. I don't suppose we need to have you introduce yourself, but we should start with potentially Christopher Kuzak. Christopher is on camera with us if you're over on YouTube. Christopher, you're a vExpert Pro. You've been engaged in the community since I've been at VMware, like probably 10 or 12 years now. So a long-time customer, a long-time advocate, a long-time pro, or at least a professional, and now a vExpert Pro as well. Why don't you take a minute and or a couple minutes to tell us what have you done in your career in IT? Who are you? And then we'll get into the vExpert Pro program itself.
Perfect. Yes. So I'm Christopher. or CXI on the internet, Twitter, etc. I blog at thepragmatictech.com. But I even recently on LinkedIn shared photos of my VMware 1.0 media I found from 1999. So I've been working with VMware for a couple days, 12-year vExpert. My journey has been an interesting one over the years, going from simple user, practitioner, partner, reseller of it, vendor. It took me all the way to Afghanistan to run theater-wide infrastructure operations for 2 years. And then, back to the States here into a CTO role. And then leaving that role to, where I'm going to be finding, where I'll invest my time next. But the vExpert program in the community has been a great part of that entire experience over these like literal decades, because again, I've got that media and everything from 99, and 21 years plus has been quite some time to be a part of this relationship, community, and partnership within the whole VMware ecosystem. So I've been really excited and passionate about it.
Well, I got two comments there. One is you must have started in your virtual career if you have 1.0. I have like 3.0 CD set, and I'm proud of the VI3, but you have 1.0. You must have started when you were like 12, because you don't look very old there in the video. So
I try not to look very old, but for what it's worth, I unfortunately I actually had discarded or got rid of my pre 1.0 versions I had. So the best I had was the 1.0 media and the physical piece of paper letter, which I still have, that says thank you, and everything always went to sales at VMware. But it was those were great times. It's still something that I cherish to this day, because VMware has been a big part of business, of community, and its impact it's had from an infrastructure standpoint as well.
Right. Perfect. All right, and we'll get on to our second vExpert Pro here, Tolga Yurthumchu, I think is how you say that. So Tolga, welcome to the show. Same thing. Tell us a little bit about what you do and how long have you been in the VMware ecosystem, and give us a view of the arc of your career.
Thanks, absolutely. Yeah, my name is Tolga Tuhumcu. I'm a staff cloud architect currently, and VMware is part of my career since 3.5, just like you said earlier. But before that, I was using VMware Workstation, VMware Server, but 3.5 when I first got my VCP. But I've been in the industry for like 20 years. I've changed roles just like Christopher. I was a developer at one point. I was a tester, and then I did instruction, basically corporate instructor. Then originally, when VMware started getting into my career, and when I got my first VCP, I started how amazing this product was at the time, as well as today, of course. But then slowly getting into that vExpert community, which I've been a vExpert for 9 years. And that changed my entire career, right? Today, where I am at is because where I'm standing today is just because of VMware. So it was a most important community that VMware built, being a vExpert. But on top of that, last year, I got the vExpert Professional too. So it's being a vExpert Pro, now I'm more humble and, honored to be here. But, I did a bunch of different roles, just like Christopher. But on top of that, I also teach at the State University of New York. I was a full-time there at one point, but now I'm a part-time. I still teach VMware ICM courses there. So every fall and spring semesters, we run VMware IT Academy program. Using that program, we're actually leveraging and teaching VMware ICM courses at the State University of New York, which we get about 30 to 40 students every year graduating, and they're ending up with some type of jobs at the customer or even a partner or anywhere they want to land, right? And usually the VMware ICM helps them get there. But overall, again, I just registered for VMworld yesterday. Just was, as soon as the VMworld opened up for registration, I've actually been to 10 VMworlds total as a customer, as a partner, as well as a blogger 3 times. But I missed last year, but this will be my first time virtually being there. So I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to see you. And then of course we have Matt Lungeth, and Matt, you're just a god. But how long have you been a vExpert?
vExpert, I believe this is year 4. Nice. But have been involved with the community for, I believe my first VMUG meeting was back in 2005, 2006 timeframe with Pittsburgh, and then moved into a leadership role there, and have been with the community ever since. wouldn't have it any other way.
All right. Nice. All right. Well, and Corey runs the vExpert program. So let me just talk a little bit, set the stage for what we were trying to do here. So I'll just tell a little bit of history of the vExpert program. We started with me and John Troyer sat. I told him I wanted a program like what Microsoft had for MVP, right? I had taken over the community program, and one of the things I noticed is that we just didn't have what they didn't call it influencer back then. It was just we didn't have a recognition for all the good people that are doing hard work. And John didn't really get it. He was like, what does that mean? And I said, well, look at the Microsoft MVP program. At the time, they had like 1,500 MVPs in their program, and we're like, we should have something like that. We don't have as many products, but that's kind of, so we looked at the MVP. We actually almost called it MVP, but then we were worried that Microsoft wouldn't be happy with that. So we wrote stuff on the whiteboard, came out. We identified, I think, 20 people that were big in the community that were engaged, right? Whether it be Duncan Epping and several of the other guys that were really engaged with outbound activities on the community platform, as well as blogging, because blogging had started back in around 2006. And then also Twitter came in like 2006 as well. So that's when we started realizing we could do this. We created it, and then we ran it probably up to about 100 people, 120 people over time, which was fine. And that was good. But then we kind of started looking at how do we grow it. We had gotten a few more products now. We were maturing, and we grew it from 100 to 350. Then we opened it up to VCDXs and kind of started promoting the program, because before that it was pretty exclusive, right? It was like a small club. But we actually wanted to move to the model of actually training people. So we managed to get it up to about 1,200 people, but it became unwieldy. And we invited Martin Smith on the program as well, but he had a conflict today. And Martin kind of jumped in because after about 1,200, we had these huge spreadsheets. We couldn't actually manage the volume of people that were coming in, the applications that were coming in. The quality of the people started to decline. And it wasn't that they were just people that were being lazy, that didn't do any work the year before, but expected to become a vExpert again. And we didn't have the ability to actually see what they were doing because there was 1,200 people and there were just two of us. Martin jumped in, built the vExpert app. So any of you know vExpert, vExpert.vmware.com, an amazing app. That let us scale. And we picked up probably another 500 people in the program because we could we could vote, right? And so for several different years, a bunch of us sat in conference rooms, me and the whole team, Katie Bradley, Elsa Mayer, Corey Romero, myself, Tony Dunn, and we sat in approved applications, right? Looking at applications, but we only did a lightweight version of that, and we certainly didn't have many touch points. Along came Valdecir, which I got to do a shout out for Valdecir Covejo, I think his last name is, but Val, everybody calls him Val. He was looking for something to do, and I put him on a contract and said, let's build a program that we have, under 100, people in every country that can go out and recruit and have engagements and talk to potential vExperts and teach them what it's like to be a good blogger, to be a good influencer, to be good on Twitter. What are the hashtags? How do you engage? What's a good blog? How do you build a good blog? And that's where we started with it. And again, we made a list of who are 10 or 15, influencers that are actually doing this already. And there were a lot of people like yourselves, Christopher and Tolga and others, who were already seen as leaders in the vExpert community. And then at the same time, we said, why don't we have Martin open up admin rights to all the vExpert pros so they could actually come in and review people's applications, and we could actually have them be part of what does it take to become a vExpert. So that we've actually transitioned the vExpert program to almost like community led to some degree by the vExpert pros that can come in and look at how that is. And so that sets the stage for where we are today. And the reason I think this is a celebration, Corey Romero, who's on the call here, is that we've been sitting at about 1,700 vExperts for probably 3 years now. And Microsoft has, got up to 2,500 to 3,000 MVP. And so we're slowly looking at that. But we need to, if we cross that 2,000 person threshold, we have to make sure they're high quality, right? That we are engaged, that we can scale out. And that's what we've done with the vExpert Pro program, which is, key influencers who are training the trainers, right? We're training the trainers, and they're going out and recruiting experts. And so we now, with this latest application, I think we're sitting at 1,800 vExperts, and with 550 apps happening over the second half here, we're going to easily cross over that 2,000, which is, I want to have an air horn, and I want for being able to cross that 2,000 effectively. And I think there's two things that have made that happen. One is Martin, right? And even now he's recruited some of the experts to help him code on the app. So it's a community app being built by community. And at the same time, the vExpert Pros. And so we wanted to do a shout out to the vExpert Pros and invite some of them in and at least talk to them about that. So, so Corey, I do have in here, give us a summary of the program globally. Can you tell us kind of like a global footprint? Are we globally? How many countries? Where are the vExpert Pros?
Yeah, so we are globally. We are at exactly 40 countries. So we have 98 vExpert Pros this year, who represent 40 countries. It's quite amazing. We have people who come in who don't primarily speak English. It's a second language. So what we offer as a big value prop of this program is the ability to go in and find a vExpert Pro via the vExpert app and work with that pro to say, hey, last year, I got declined. I wasn't sure. So the pro will actually work with this person in region and help them write their application, whether it's in English or maybe they'll help them do a translation. But the pros are really there. They're really a key piece to this entire global footprint that we're now pushing out. So yeah, that's a summary of the footprint of the global vExpert program.
So I guess I'll jump over to Christopher, then I'll let Matt do some talking because I know I've monopolized my hosting ability here. But Christopher, why don't you tell us, what does it mean for you when you're talking about recruiting vExperts? What's the way you go about doing that? And then secondly, are there reasons to be a vExpert Pro if you feel passionate about this? So first, what do you do to recruit vExperts, and what's your experience been like there? And then two, do you think it's worthy being a pro?
So I've always had the gracious opportunity to be part of this community and find people and connecting people, through running events and other things that I've done in the past. And I would specifically, one of the benefits of attending VMworld and other events like that would be, one, there's all the people we know, right? Everyone that's part of the community knows everyone. But then there's people who are new to the community or people who are not a part of the community at all. And I would see them at sessions, presentations, walking the floor, whatever it happens to be. And that applies not just at VMworld, but also in the greater community as a whole. I see these people out there, and they're doing the good work. They're going out there, they're sharing their experience, they're passionate about what they're doing. Which is a hard line that a lot of people don't realize. And that line is, they're like, oh, what I'm doing doesn't really matter all that much because it's what I do for work. But it's not what you do for work, because if you take every, whether someone's at a vendor, they're a sales engineer, systems engineer, solution architect, any of those things, or if you have admins or operators that are working in a customer environment, admins, operators, architects, and everyone, they go to work, they do their job, they clock in the time clock, and then they clock out every day. Everyone effectively does that, but it's the people who, they're like, wow, what I did today was so hard or wrong or different or complicated. They solve some type of problem, and they document that experience, so they share that for others, so that way they can benefit from them. A lot of times those people, they don't see the value in their own actions, but I see the value in that, because when I've had this before. I wrote a blog post about VMware Workstation and about VMware Fusion 12 years ago. And people still hit this post today and they're saying, that helped me fix my problem. I'm like, that's great. That was not the intention, because it was clearly written for a much older version. But it's those little, rewards of like, I saw a problem, I found a way to resolve that. And I see all of these members of the community who are going and doing this on a regular basis. And those people, they are the evangelists that they may not necessarily realize. They may not know all the inroads and the fact that there is a strong community there. Sometimes they do, and they want to be a part of that community. The number of people I've talked to they're like, I want to become more engaged in my VMUG, and they want to become, they want to present and speak and so on and so forth. And they're a jack of all different careers and what have you. And it's whenever I see those things, it's a great level of like growth, and it's a personal passion of those people. And then taking that to the next level, and this is where the vExpert Pro program I found to actually be extra beneficial, is while working with some of the new prospective vExperts. Actually, I'm going to call out one, silently. I talked with one prospective vExpert who lives in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And all of the VMware curriculum that they were getting was delivered in English. The DMC is French speaking. So he, as just a regular, run-of-the-mill person who cares about virtualization in VMware, has been translating the courses from English into French so as to share virtualization and VMware with the people of Congo. And that is an extra dose of that. That's not your day job. It's not something like, this is something that we could do. It's something that someone is directly doing and investing and trying to, share that love, share that spread. And I've actually been working on translating some of my blog posts as well as creating brand new content into Mandarin in order to spread that reach even further throughout the APAC region, China, Taiwan, and so forth, because there's a number of active bloggers in that space. I'd say there's probably about 12 active virtualization type bloggers in China. 12 out of, let's say, only a couple 100 million of them are focused on a tech-centric subject. That can be grown more, and that's another area that I'm personally trying to grow and invest in that area as just remember the community. It's not even this is irrespective of vExpert or vExpert Pro. This is just a way to reach out to more people and have them be able to grow and invest as well, because it spreads in that kind of wildfire in a very good way.
You had a really good point too, which is I remember when we were trying to grow it to 600 or 800, the vExpert program, and people are like, how can you do this? You're just gonna, and I'm like, there are 300 countries or whatever the number is, it's 280 or some number like that. I said, even if we just had a single vExpert in, pro in every country, just to help with the translations, right, of material, just to engage in their language. I can't engage. It's interesting, in APJ region, I get really interesting followers now, right? That I get to, I follow everybody that follows me, and then I, usually say a direct, hey, how's it going, right? And that English is their second language, but it's connecting, and it's also having them be able to create their own vExpert program in that country, in their language. And the pros being in these 40 different countries allow this program to do that, and without us having to learn 40 different languages. So it is, and that sharing aspect of it, really, really important. Yeah. All right, so that's good. Matt, any questions before we get to Tolga?
No, I just, to comment on some of those, I just happened to watch a TAM Lab of the YouTube TAM Lab sub-channel that just has put out some fantastic content lately, and has really, really increased their amount of content that they've been putting out. And one of the last ones that was just published was a specific lab that was done in Portuguese. So that as we increase these labs and we increase these the local vExperts, localization and translation is a great thing. It's a global program. It's a global organization, and it's part of the growth and extending to it. And the more that we can see this translations take place in multiple formats, whether it's blog or native language content, I think the better. So it's a huge component of where we go with the program as a whole.
Nice.
Did you guys see that video produced by, one of the members of representing Myanmar and promoting the VMware program and virtualization to those people who are native to Myanmar?
Nice. Haven't seen that, but that's interesting. So that's the model. I love it, and it has been growing, and with the application and so forth, it's nice to see. Tolga, I know you've been out there, you've been patient here. just a couple things. What's your impressions of what you've heard so far, so we can stay with it, and then I'll hit you with, it's always happy. We always give each other big hugs, right? Like, oh, the V community and the vExperts, oh, it's big hug time, right? I always say, like, what do we think our challenges are in the community as a whole, and how can the vExperts or the program, whatever, try to tackle some of this. And so just thought I'd like to hear from you.
Sure. Well, everything Christopher just said, I agree, right? On top of that, of course, yes, we do have challenges on the vExpert or vExpert Pro, right? Basically, it's the biggest challenge we have is to make people understand what's the true meaning of being a vExpert. And, when I go to VMworld events or vMugs or local events that everybody's speaking the same language, right? It is awesome to be there, and you're being honored just being part of that community. So sometimes we need to understand that we want to, kind of put that message out to vExpert to be, what is the really true meaning of being a vExpert? On top of that, being a vExpert Pro now, we need to dig outside of our community to find fresh people, right? As Christopher said, sometimes there are people there out there, we don't know yet, but until you really reach out to them and, within social media or whatever it is, then you actually help them out get to where they want to be. So as you can tell, my name is not, regular name, right? I am actually Turkish origin. So, and recently, last 3-4 years, there's a lot of people from Turkey joining vExpert programs. I've been in touch with them over the years, just helping them out to get to where they are. And a lot of them are really, really good. And they do Turkish blogs and even on the vExpert Pro program, when they apply for this time, Corey mentioned earlier, we are now reaching out to them. And there's a few things that I actually start reading Turkish blogs to understand, how is the translation going and trying to help them out. But, those are the things that we have to reach out, not only in our community, not only the vExpert community, but outside of outside of our channels and say, hey, who else is out there doing similar work, and try to find them out. So those are the biggest challenges we have today. But I think, again, these two programs are just amazing. I mean, it's just I can't put words to it, right? When I see somebody with the vExpert logo on it, I just want to go hug them, right? I just want to talk to them, and I just want to be, hang out with them, whatever that is, right? Because the topics just open up, and you start talking about the same language, and it's just, no matter where your origin is, we're all about virtualization. We're all about what we want to talk about. So that's what it's come back to. So,
yeah, I think that I sometimes forget about just the technology and the layers of things we've had to learn in order to be in this industry for 5 or 6 years. If you've been working with virtualization for 5 or 6 years, you've done a lot of work. You've attached storage devices, you've set up virtual networks, you've had compute, you've had VMware tools set up, you've had to deal with crashes, VMDKs. The list goes on. And you're right. You just want to hug them and go and cry, going, hey, don't ever do tar XVF when you meant to do a tar CVF, because everything will go horribly wrong. And it's like that kind of stuff where you actually connect, and then you like to share those experiences so other people can avoid things like that.
And every piece of information that we share out, no matter it's a blog post or a Twitter or whatever it is, right, is an article. It helps somebody. As Christopher just said, 12 years ago when he wrote an article, it's still getting people hitting and saying thanks to him, because it's the problem that they're solving, right? We're solving a problem eventually, no matter what it is. It could be something really minor, but somebody went through it, posted, spent the time after the work. They did it in their home labs, reproduced the problem, posted on a web, and it helps everybody.
The other thing that this program does is there's a natural career arc. I like to use the Disney model, right? There's always a new set of teenagers to watch Snow White, right? So in the land of virtualization, there's always new people coming in to your point of teaching classes, right? There are going to be new people. There are going to be people that graduate and become architects like yourself, right? Where you step up and you have this career arc, right? That transverses until one day you retire, right? And then you have new people. So people ask me that, like, oh, how many new community members do you get per week, right? And I actually tell them, it's like I get 6,000 new community members sign up to VM10 every week, right? Which is like, they're like, wow. And I'm like, yeah, but You have to remember that I also have 5,600 of them move on every week as well, right? Like it's an arc of people. We've been here long enough that people begin their career and end their career in 20 years, right? And move on to other jobs. But having some of the more senior people become vExperts and vExperts Pro to help those that are just coming up through the ladder, so to speak. Yep. So, all right. I guess I didn't ask a question. I just kind of said that, yeah, that's how that works. Some of the things that we're doing with the app that I think will be interesting. One of the things, so I guess I'll ask either one of you. I guess I'll hit Toga first, then I'll ask Christopher, and I'll ask Matt. One of the things that we're looking at when we're moving the community platform from Jive to Lithium, and we're creating what we call coffee shops. One of the coffee shops I'm thinking of spinning up is a careers coffee shop, right? A place where you can come in, post jobs, engage with, because part of this making more money along that journey as well, like so that you can figure out what you want to do next. And sometimes there's boredom to this. Like I've been running, workstation for a long time. I want to do something different. And so you can engage with community to learn what you need to learn next.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great idea, opening a coffee shop to be able to chat about careers, because eventually, as you said, we are working, but we are getting older. As we get older, we want to move to different positions, even though it's in the same field. It's just a different hats that we're wearing. Sometimes we're already wearing 3-4 hats, but also guiding people throughout the same process, right? And as you said earlier too, like, when I teach the ICM courses, every student that's graduating that, especially graduating with a, bachelor's degree from college, my goal is to make sure that I help them out in LinkedIn, getting up to their profile, make sure that they get an internship somewhere, or a job somewhere, which I've placed so many students over the years. It helps. So for example, that coffee shop idea, I'll bring all my students there, when the time comes. Yeah, Great idea.
Christopher, you came off mute. Any thoughts?
I have I have actually a couple different thoughts on that. And it's part of reaching a point of expansion. The vExpert universe and the VMware universe has just been growing and growing and growing, and we're reaching that that universal kind of expansion. Largely, still to this day, a lot of people think when they think of VMware, they think of ESXi hypervisor. They don't. Sometimes it'll vary, but they don't necessarily always think that there's 79 plus additional products within the portfolio. I've talked with some people, and all they do and deal with is VeloCloud, NSX, Avi. Those are the only things they deal with, and yet they're still like deeply entrenched within the VMware ecosystem, and that's wow. But a lot of times people they're just thinking how everything ties back into the one little piece of it, and it's not that it's wrong, but more and more growth and expansion can be having in those areas. Especially with this year is the first year with the vExpert security, but also this year is deeply entrenched greater investment security from a portfolio standpoint, as well as from an industry standpoint. As someone with a deep, extensive background in security, and I've watched the gross disappointment of security being highly overlooked and ignored for years and years, it's very exciting to me of people are going to start securing stuff. They're going to secure their hypervisors. They're going to secure their networks and all that stuff. And it becomes that extra level of growth that each of these individuals can take advantage of. So like we're saying, from a career progression standpoint, someone started off, hey, I've got my VCP and I've got my investment knowing this part of the stack. And then they start to grow that. They become an architect over that space, or they become at a much higher level, but their depth and breadth grows exponentially, because they're not just focused on a server or applications that may run that server. It just kind of continues to grow. And then when we throw like Tanzu and Kubernetes under that, the sky's the limit of as far as we can go at this point. And it's a very exciting time to be in technology, and especially in the VMware and vExpert ecosystem.
That's actually a really good point. Go ahead, Matt.
So Christopher, to your point for right there, so we're seeing these huge portfolio growths, and especially within the last couple of years, traditional operators that might have been in the DevOps space that are now engaging with our community and using what were traditional infrastructure and that blending of it. So everything from as you mentioned, Kubernetes, security, You see now with AI and machine learning, with some of the things that we're seeing with the Fusion acquisition.
Mhm.
As a vExpert Pro, how do you find yourself, or have you seen yourself engaging with these new community members that might now be just being introduced to the VMware ecosystem for the first time? How do we reach out to these non-traditional infrastructure folks and show them the value and the benefit that is the VMware community that's been around for so long?
Well, I'd say there's a side of reaching out to the members of the community, but everything starts at home. And part of that is further reaching out and engaging the vExperts that already live today, because a lot of them are vExperts, but a lot of them are on the traditional platform. I recently put out a blog post around BitFusion to talk about the ML and AI stuff and all the functionality there. And one of the reasons is, how many people knew that acquisition happened? Many people didn't. How many people knew that's something that they could do? So part of it is it's educating and growing within, and then getting people excited and passionate around it to whether they start using, leveraging, and then scaling those things out others. So I find that today there's there's always been basically three different classifications of vExpert, right? There's partner, there's customer, there's evangelist, right? Largely, and then there's the VCDX part. But,
yes.
But usually a VCDX is going to be one of those three underneath the covers. But each of those groups look at technology in a slightly different way. A partner will often go through their BTSP, VSP training just because they have to as part of maintaining their partnership. Whereas the evangelist may do those things, but they're often sharing the story. And the customer is often dealing with the products that they have on the floor today. They've got VMware on the floor, great. They just acquired VeloCloud in order to expand their SD-WAN strategy or SDF, all those pieces together. That's something that they'll probably be talking about. But people talk about the things that they work with and they deal with more often than not. And if I were to ask someone, hey, what are all the products in the VMware portfolio? They could probably mention about a dozen, but could they mention about 80? Sometimes there'll be products in there that they might mention that don't exist anymore. And I've been down that road as well. But it's part of it, half of it's educating just the vExperts alone of like, we have all these other things. Did you know that you could use this to solve your business problem or whatever? And that sometimes like, that's pretty exciting. That's, and they can get really passionate and excited about those items within the portfolio more than just the stuff that I do what I do because it's what I do, and thus it's easier to talk about the things you do because you know those things.
Great points. Tolga, have you had any experience with reaching out to members of the community that have not been, let's call it, traditional infrastructure operators that may have been introduced through different means, security, SD-WAN, EUC, or whatnot?
Well, yeah.
And how have you engaged with them?
Yeah, I usually, either they're in a customer area or they're using certain platforms for certain products within VMware. Either I got introduced through, a friend, or I reach out to them through social media. We connect and we start sharing ideas. So that's how I normally reach out. But sometimes I could be in a meeting during my full-time daytime job, and I could be meeting somebody who's running the VMware infrastructure for that company. Then I don't just let them go. After the meeting is over, hey, let's go grab a beer, right? And let's chat about this. And then, we'd start talking about this whole thing. And then my ultimate goal is to, get them to, okay, they could be a partner, they could be customer, but get into our community. Hey, what are you doing today for the community? Do you want to be part of that? So that's how I reach out usually. And the thing is, there's thousands of them, right? That's everywhere, right? We can just reach out to them in different methods, but that's how I normally do. In person is always good, but now with the COVID situation, everything's remote.
I think you guys bring up an interesting point with this whole topic, which is, and Christopher, you touched on it, which is the breadth of our products now, and the fact that we have cloud services, SaaS services. We're getting away from the just everything, right? And we have quite a lot. It still sits in your data center. I could see where the vExpert Pro program, we might have to look at doing some activities around technologies, right? And we do have the subgroups, the NSX and the subgroups, but the Pro program hasn't really looked at subgroups. We looked at it from a country expansion perspective. And there might be some work that we need to do around what are the key elements and how do we engage with the security audience, right? So that when we're recruiting the experts in security, we know what to say, because I think by and large, a lot of the pros probably come from the hypervisor foundation, and then we're slowly growing up. And maybe we have to do, I know we have the badges in the vExpert app, but there might be some work that we could do around how are we building collective that are in, I want to say coffee shop areas, right? Which is whether it's security or whether it's other topics that aren't what I would call traditional hypervisor based data center stuff. Because I can see that as we're SaaS services and acquiring bunches of technology, that might be a place that we grow into in the next year or two. Interesting. Anyway, all right. Well, we're coming up to the top of the hour, and I know we have a hard stop at the top of the hour. I want to finish up with maybe a minute or two from Corey Romero, if he's still around. My question to you, Corey, is I know you guys are working with Martine around some new applications, new stuff in the app, in the vExpert app. One of them, I think, is going to be, being able to update your resume, kind of your application, which acts as your kind of what I did this year diary. Is that still something you guys are pursuing?
Eric, that's actually the number one thing that we're going to build out first, just because I think that holds the most amount of value. We have a whole bunch of little things to do. I think we've got I think it's the 10. So we categorize these by a P1, P2, P3, right? So we've got 10 P1s, maybe 15 P2s and 12 P3s, right? So that is the number one P1 that we have, right? Just because it provides the most value, right? I think where it really holds the most value is doing those little things that you forget about throughout the year, right? And it's funny that a lot of times we'll get applications come in and they're really, really short applications, and we deny it because we just go, yeah, there's lack of detail, right? Like we don't know what you do. And so when we get emails back, and we always ask, hey, if you can provide more detail, do an appeal and send it back to us, right? Because we don't want to just say, hey, you're not doing the stuff. And they go, well, I am, but I just didn't describe it very well. And so the emails that we get back a lot of times are just paragraphs of paragraphs, because they go back and they actually go, well, wait a minute, let me think a little deeper on what I did do, right? Whereas this new live application, it's like a year-round application, and the only time you can't update it will be during the voting process, right? Because it's locked in, and that's what we're looking at. So that's a very, very short window. So it leaves you, 11 months to go through and build your application, which is very, very valuable.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. That one is one that I think people can use as a tool, right, to kind of document your career throughout the year. So one, it can be a resume input. When if you ever want to update your resume, you have your vExpert kind of diary that you'll be able to have, and you can add to it year after year. Hopefully you can go back and look at what you've been doing through those years. And it kind of becomes like my Facebook pages for me personally. The reason I still post on Facebook, one, because my parents are still alive and they like seeing what I'm doing with my family, but two, it just becomes my diary. Nobody wants to say that, but it actually is. It's a diary of my life, right? I post photos, I put some comments in, what I'm thinking, who I'm yelling at, whatever. You can see a state of Eric throughout the 10 years I've been doing that. And I think the vExpert app process and that, because we're home building this app, could be an app that, and not the application, but the app itself, could be that for your career as you document all the things and activities. And it can actually be things I'd like to see us be able to upload some photos into it so that you can actually kind of remember the vExpert, the VMworld from 2008. I have really great pictures. I put them on Twitter and then they're gone, right? And I don't really have what I would call a career Facebook kind of place. So I'm looking forward to that, coming to realization where we actually have that diary as part of that. All right, we're up at the top of the hour. Tolga, thank you for being here. Tolga, you're staff architect for Splunk. You're a vExpert Pro. You do a lot of work for us, and it's great to have you. To Chumchu. Say your last name one more time, and then we'll let you go because I know you got a hard stop in 1 minute.
Thank you so much for having me, Eric, as well as Matt and Corey.
And Tolga, if our listeners would want to follow you on social media, is there a Twitter handle that you happen to use?
Yes, my @Tolga Tuhumcu is my full name.
Yeah, TOLGATOHUMCU.
Correct, Eric. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Christopher, thanks for being on the show as always. I missed the days when you were overseas, hunkering down.
I don't miss those days.
Yeah,
I do want to.
I followed you.
I do want to do a shout out to the VMware advocacy page, advocacy.vmware.com. It's a great place for non-vExperts to go and see great content. It's a great place for vExperts to go and share their content. So that way people can, learn, explore, and be part of the greater VMware community as a whole.
There you go. If you are not on the advocacy platform, it's probably because you're not a vExpert, but if you want to be on it, you're listening to this podcast, you can be an advocate. Just send Berry, TBERRY @vmware.com a mail, and he'll send you an invite to the advocacy.vmware.com platform, where we have 5,000 people uploading, downloading, and it's one button click publishing out into all your social channels. And there are literally 150 different items being posted every day that you can go out and share as yourself. So it looks like you're smart and you've curated the content yourself, which is actually pretty nice. Great shout out, Christopher. Thanks a lot for coming on the show, and we'll keep track of you, and I'll see what you get to. I get to follow your life through the social channels, and I love that. So thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Corey, thanks as always for running Corey for running the vExpert program, and Matt for being my co-host. To finish it up, I got one thing for the vBarbecue. vBarbecue report is. I try to barbecue whole chickens. Usually I jerk them and I cut them in half, splay them, and put them on the grill. And I tried to do that with barbecue chicken, where you put just barbecue sauce on it and like smoke them. I tried to smoke chicken, right? And I tried to do barbecue, and I failed. It was dry and tasteless, and it didn't pick up any of the smoke. So this is doing the whole chicken. So if you ever want to do jerk chicken whole, those things work great. Smoking a full chicken on a barbecue, and I did a couple of them in a Kingsford charcoal grill, did not work. Dried it out, and nobody ate it. I had leftover barbecue chicken. It was sad. So there you go. I will highlight a failure because we always talk about all the great things we make. This did not work. Maybe I'll try again. That's it for the week.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yep. Thanks to everybody. Oh, Tony, you're here. I'm sorry, I did not see you. Anything you want to update before we go?
No. Charcoal sales are happening, so I've been stocking up on charcoal for my grill. That's my vBarbecue report.
That's
for this
your
week.
report. All right. Thanks everybody for being here. We'll be again here live next week at youtube.com/vbarbecue, or you can follow us at TalkShoe vmw.re/pod POD. Thanks a lot. We'll see you again next week. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, everybody.